And Sheldon. I'm Natanis Likens, and today we are going to talk about something that is a little bit ironic, given the shirt that I'm wearing, if you can really make that out. We're going to be talking about the DC animated universe. And specifically, the reason that we are going to do this is because they are currently doing a version of the Crisis or the Infinite Crisis or whatever it's called. That they got several versions, but they're currently in the middle of doing that. We have part one and part two. Part three comes out sometime in July. I'm a little bit fuzzy on the exact release date. It looks like it's either the 15th or the 25th. Not entirely sure on when that's actually coming out. But yeah, I thought I would make a little video on this and kind of give any new people interested in the series a idea of where to start, because there's going to be a few things in these movies that you're going to be completely and utterly lost on unless you've seen some of the other movies. Not all of these are necessary, though a good chunk of them are. And then there is a few shorts that are necessary to understand who these characters are and where they're from. And yeah, it's a whole mess of things. And if you think the MCU is complex with their TV shows, the DC animated universe is a lot more complex. And we're not going to go into full detail on that. We're going to quickly talk about the New 52 continuity and then get into the Infinite Crisis stuff. There's a lot of films there that I'm not even sure every single one of them. But first off, we got to talk about where is the New 52 in the animated universe. Okay, so if you remember the old 90s Justice League and Justice League Unlimited, that series just flat out ended. And the very next thing that we get as far as a continuation of that is the first movie that we got to talk about, and it's the first movie in this particular series that you're going to have to watch to understand what is going on with the Infinite Crisis on Earth. Yeah. I'm going to do this without any cuts, so I may slip on words a little bit. So here we got a few of the movies. This is not all of them, and some of these I would say that you don't even need to see. Uh, yeah, there's a few of them, but you do definitely need to start off on the top left with Justice League Flashpoint. It is called the Flashpoint Paradox. I don't know why they named it that. They should have just called it Flashpoint. So this is supposed to be the jump from the old continuity into the new 52 continuity, which, okay, so comic fans, don't lynch me because I'm not exactly familiar with the DC comic verse, but I don't think the new 52 starts until after a later event. And it's not Flashpoint from what I understand in the comic verse. I'm a little bit fuzzy on that because, like I said, I'm not that familiar with the comic verse. We'll get into that a little bit later, but that is definitely the first movie that you need to watch in this continuity to understand what is going on. Um, Up next is Justice League War. So this is the first Justice League movie of the entire series. And this is the first encounter of many of these characters. Like, this is the first time a lot of these have met. Uh, doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but yeah, that's kind of what happens in this. Um, yeah, don't ask. It's just how it works. Like, Batman's already met Flash, and Flash knows about Superman and all of them, and Justice League War. It introduces us to Apocalypse and Darkseid and all that. So that's the first two movies you need to watch in that. It's a little bit odd that they don't already know each other considering that we just had Flashpoint, but whatever. And you got to remember too, these movies are about 10 years old at this point. But this continuity really does hold together. So after War, this is going to be like the first outside of the movie series thing that I'm going to suggest, and that is Young Justice. You definitely need to watch Young Justice in order to understand who a lot of the younger characters are, because there's a bunch, and in the in the various movies, you do come across a few of these, and it's just something that you'll have to watch to understand who these characters are, where they're coming from, and what their background is. Because there's a few of them that are not the standard characters in any continuity that I know of. I mean, this is all the New 52 stuff. And again, I'm not that familiar with the comic stuff. I only know the movies. Up next, we got Son of Batman, mostly so you know who Damien is. And then immediately after that, we can skip Throne of Atlantis. I haven't seen that one. I don't think there's anything important there to know about. Not important. Batman versus Robin, not really important. You do get some really cool moments with Batman fighting Damien, or Bruce Wayne fighting Damien, however you want to say that. Batman Bloodlines, not again, not something that's really pertinent to the entire series, but you do see these characters in Young Justice. So if you're watching Young Justice and go into Batman Bloodline, you know who those are going to be. Justice League Teen Titans, I don't know that one at all. This is the first time I've even seen that one, was pulling up this image. Justice League Dark. Okay, this is very important. So even if you skip from Justice League War over Son of Batman, Throne of Atlantis, Batman vs. Robin, Batman Bloodline, Teen Titans, Justice League Dark is important. It is a key factor in the entire story. So definitely suggest watching that one. Teen Titans Judas Contract, not important. Suicide Squad, not necessarily important, but you will get some context for some characters in the movie that is directly below it. That is Justice League Dark. We'll get to that in a minute. Death of Superman and Reign of the Superman. Highly suggest these. Death of Superman is probably the best version of the Death of Superman story by far. They followed it so well that I absolutely love that movie. It is one of my favorite of the DC animated movies. Reign of Superman, it's okay, but there's some key information there that you need to know in order to understand Justice League Dark. Batman Hush, not important. Wonder Woman Blood, Wonder Woman Bloodlines, not familiar with that at all. I hadn't even heard of it until I pulled up this image. So that's two on this list that I'd never heard of until I seen this image. Um, Justice League Dark is where we really need to get to. So that's like at least 6 or 7 movies on this list that I highly do recommend in order to understand what is going on with the Infinite Crisis. Okay, from that, I've got a notepad open up over here. There are a couple of movies that were not on this particular list that I do highly suggest. So the two Justice League Dark movies mainly focus on John Constantine. However, you need to see his standalone film, Constantine City of Demons. There's really some important background information there, so you know exactly like how strong he is, some of his how he is, just how he acts and everything. And more importantly, excuse me, you need to see how he deals with demons and how he tricks them and everything. This is very important. As a side note, this is actually a movie that happens before the Flashpoint, though I don't remember it being that way, so it's kind of odd. I do highly recommend watching Crisis on Two Earths. That is Justice League Crisis on Two Earths. Uh, just so you see the uh, crime syndicate. I can't remember their name off the top of my head. It's the evil version of all the main Justice League characters. Uh, they do pop up in the first uh, Infinite Crisis movie, so you kind of need to see that to understand who these characters are and which one is which. Simply put, because one of them is called Superwoman. This is not a female version. Let me make this perfectly clear. This is not a female version of Superman. This is Wonder Woman as a villain. Ultraman is actually the evil Clark Kent. Just so you know that, and we got that clarification. And then you also see Lex Luthor as a good guy. Uh, I highly do recommend that film. It actually is very enjoyable. Though I'm so confused on the actual time frame on that one because I could have sworn that that was New 52 era of the movies, and clearly just looking at Superman's costume, it is not on the box art cover. Yeah, I'm still a little bit confused by that because I could have sworn that was New 52. After that, we have the short Constantine House of Mystery. Okay, so Constantine House of Mystery is maybe 25 minutes long. It is directly after Justice League Dark. So, if you've made it that far, you need to see that. It's immediately after those events. Up next, and there's a whole bunch of other movies out there, but there's only one that I really feel you need to see simply because there is a sequence in the first movie that left me totally confused. I didn't know what was going on, I didn't know what I was looking at. So, this other movie that you need to see so you have context for what you're looking at is Justice League War World. Try saying that 5 times fast. Um, yeah, there is a single scene in the very first movie. In fact, let's go ahead and pull this up. So that's number two. It must have. Hang on 1 second. I think it glitched on me. And now it resized it. Alright. Like I said, we're doing this live, so yeah. There you go. And in fact, if you look right there to the left of Flash, that is Ultraman right there. So you do kind of need to see that. Oh, and that's Superwoman right there on his right. Uh, yeah, you do kind of need to see that Crisis on Two Earths to understand who these characters are. Just give you a bit of context for them. Anyway, like I was saying, so there's a scene in this movie that just left me completely confused. I didn't know what I was looking at, and once you watch Justice League War World, you'll understand it a little bit more. There's still some questions I have there as far as continuity because I have no frame of reference for this particular movie at all. Um, it was an interesting story, that's for sure. Uh, did leave me a bit confused as to how all this came about, but it did fill in the gap as to what the scene was in this Infinite Crisis movie. Or Crisis on Infinite Earths. Like, there's so many different titles for this. Just excuse me on that. Anyway, so once you watch part one, you can watch part two, and part two is where I really do suggest you watch Young Justice because there's a lot of the younger characters in there. We also, for some weird reason, we also get Terry McGinnis. Uh, Terry McGinnis Batman. I was trying to think of the Batman Beyond. It, judging by the shape of his character, I'm guessing this is a much older Terry McGinnis that appears in this. Really cool. I was glad to see that character. They also had, Yeah, you wouldn't know who that is unless you watch Batman Bloodlines. Now that I think about it, they also had Nightwing, or sorry, Batwing in there. Um, yeah, unless you watch Justice League, Batman Bloodlines, you wouldn't know who Batwing is. Um, he gets introduced in that movie, and that's where he comes from. So it's so odd too because he's in one scene and one scene only. The whole rest of the movie, he's not there. He's in one scene, and then you never see him again. Odd, but like I said, there's some characters here that unless you watch some of the other movies or the show Young Justice, you're not going to know who these characters are. Or if you don't watch Son of Batman, you're not going to know who that Robin is, who the little Robin is fighting alongside the tall Robin. Um, we can see here in this image that we actually have that is the Dick Grayson Robin right there. And we have, they never state who it is, but I believe that is Barbara Gordon Batgirl. And then you can see Superman back there, classic Wonder Woman, and Supergirl. Uh, they did they did some interesting things with this entire story. I don't remember the exact details of the original story. I don't know who the helper is that kills the Monitor, but Supergirl, spoilers, Supergirl is the one that does this in this movie. Big spoilers. Big spoilers. I should have put a spoiler warning before I said that. Anyway, that kind of leads us up to where we are currently at, and we got part 3 coming in July. Honestly, I'm kind of looking forward to it, and I know that they're making this straight up a trilogy. I don't see how they're gonna wrap up the story in the third movie. Bit more spoilers for you, so I will try and put like a spoiler warning somewhere, probably at the beginning of this. Uh, but there's just they don't learn enough about what is happening in the first two movies. In fact, in the first movie, they don't learn jack. Um, and this compared to the comic version, it's like they took pieces from Crisis on Infinite Earths and Infinite Crisis, which are two completely different stories. Uh, it seems like they took elements of both of them because the setup for the multiverse is more like Infinite Crisis, while the story progression is more like Crisis. However, there's some other elements going on that I just can't place. And then I don't know if you can still see that on the part 2 poster. There's a new character that I've never heard of. Yeah, and you can see him right there in the background. I'm not going to say anything about that character because we've already done enough spoilers, but I've never heard of him before. That is a character that I'm completely lost on. Um, but yeah, I am definitely looking forward to part 3. I cannot wait for it to come out. We've got a long wait ahead of us because it doesn't come out to July. Yep, yep. So anyway, I hope you guys don't mind the spoilers. I hope you don't mind my beard rubbing up against the mic. I can't really stop that at times. It seems like the mic just kind of goes in and you can't really see my hand, so whatever. Anyway, I'm Natanis Likens, and subscribe, and I'll see you later.